everyone.
Aggressive. I never get over it.
Yeah.
Always affronted.
Well, she's very loud in the ear.
She yells.
If no one has ever done a Zoom recording, the Zoom woman is very loud. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Right Amount of Unhinged podcast, the podcast where a couple best friends talk about whatever we want.
This week we're talking about something interesting that like matters.
Oh, I was gonna say it's still busy season,
weird.
So I'm still kind of tired, to say the least. But yeah, my other podcast is on hiatus right now, so I don't have a I don't have an outlet for this kind of stuff. So Ashley has kindly agreed for me to talk about something interesting and not pop culture related, I guess. So a little background, there's this NPR podcast called Code Switch, which is pretty popular. If you're like a person of color, you've probably heard about it. It goes around and talks about basically just, I don't know, like hyphenated issues is what I call it, or just like code switching, which is, just a term that people do. So this week's episode for them was a Filipino American, or just a Filipino concept. It's really based in the psychology of being Filipino, and I sent it to Ashley. You probably didn't listen to it, which is fine because I'm gonna send like.
I'm so mad because I was gonna listen to it during work today, and then I'm not gonna talk about it on the podcast. But we did get a sneak preview before recording started of why I have not been able to listen to this.
Yeah. Well, and it's
I
fine.
got 5 minutes in, and then
okay. So
everything happened.
Did you get the definition at least?
Yes, I understand the concept as a general overview, and I tried to like Google it and like research it more before we got on here so that I could like not come in and be like, "What's that?" And like
which would have been fine anyway. So a 5 minute.
For anybody that's listening, if you are the white best friend of a person of color, when they tell you something about their culture, you look into it and it matters. So you treat it like something that matters, even if it doesn't apply to your life and you don't fully understand it. You owe that respect to your friends. So just saying.
She's the white person here. So
if our voices, if that's not obvious, I don't know how to help you. I sound like a Ray Dunn ceramic.
Because I did have anyways, Ray Dunn. So because I did have a moment. Was that last week when I texted you?
Yes.
Where I went back. I'm in therapy now. I'm back in therapy, and I had a moment. And so I texted her, and therapy brain isn't my best brain, but I figured I'd send her this podcast because it does relate to my struggle. At least anything that can bridge the gap between my psychology and how I live versus how you have lived, it probably will benefit you. So that whenever I do get into a mood, you can somehow find a way to be like, oh, it's probably that thing in the Philippines that is conflicting. So anyways, the Filipino psychology is obviously very interesting to me because it does help me understand my situation in the brain. But this one is called Utang na Loob, which is a Filipino concept, and to translate it, utang is like a debt or something that you owe someone. It doesn't have to be money, but it nowadays, capitalism wise, it ends up being money. But it also could be
it's capitalism.
Yeah, but it's also emotional debt. So utang is that, and then na loob, na is like of, the word of basically in any context, and then loob is inside, or in this case like of one's inner self or the soul. So it really in English it translates to like the debt of the soul. which is already so very complex in English, and it is obviously very complex in Tagalog and Filipino, but like to spell out in English already is like, oh, that's why it's so heavy in the Philippines. So basically the example on the NPR podcast, you probably didn't get this far into it, but basically a woman and a mother are paying off a mortgage of a house that they own in America. The daughter, their parents got divorced, and as part of the divorce agreement is to like sell that house, and then everyone split the profit. So the mom and dad would split the profit. but they never sold a house, which is whatever. And the dad went back to the Philippines. So, and he hasn't spoken to his daughter or like has had contact with his family in that manner since they divorced, I believe. Um, and the house isn't sold yet as of the recording, whenever they recorded with her, but the dad calls up the daughter in California. I believe it's California. Or it might be generalizing because a lot of Filipinos are in California. um, I have family in California, so I can make that joke.
I can make that joke. It's hilarious.
And the first thing he asks is to give him the money of the portion of the house because it's the debt that the daughter has with him. It's the utang that the daughter has with him, basically saying like, without me and your mom going over there, you wouldn't be here in America living your dream and having this house. So that it's the shame that the debt that the daughter has for her dad giving her a life in America. So basically, synopsis of this example is that the daughter had to take out another mortgage to pay back her dad. So instead of fighting, and
the audacity is stored in the testicles. I'm just saying.
But basically, but instead of fighting it with, legally whatever, like, which would be maybe the Western way to deal with it, is to like just not.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that psychology because not that to that extreme has happened to me, but I have had instances where I just let it go because it is that utang that I have, that like debt that I have to my parents for bringing me over here, that like I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to do it and have them just leave me alone. Because there's another concept in the Philippines called kapwa, which basically means the community you have around you. Or kapwa is like the same type of people, and the collective nature of being Filipino is like, if you're a Filipino and that's your kapwa, like that, you will look out for them no matter what. So it's like even 10 times not worse, but like just like harder to break when you're family, especially if that's your parents. And if you break that, and if you break your utang na loob or whatever, it's like you're shunned. It's like you're all of a sudden you're like nothing. You like are so selfish. You're doing XYZ. So I thought it was very interesting. I think you besides me, you could probably think of instances where it's happened to me. Yes. But it's like one of the things that like in American culture is what like it's just like butting heads, and like the struggle of being just like, I always say hyphenated American because that's what many people are, is just like, how do you then coexist between what your parents know versus what your friends and peers know? Because it's like, because I can act Filipino with you, but you're just not understand. Whereas I'm like, I can act American with my parents, and they're just like, "What are you doing? You sound like a spoiled brat." So I thought it was very interesting. So do you have
really is. I love 100%. I love the concept, and it's one of those parts of your culture that like I can, by getting to be so deeply a part of your family. Like I've seen a lot of aspects of your culture in play, and while there are a lot of things that like I've always like understood and been like, yeah, okay, like I get it, there are a lot of things that I'm like, fuck that shit, like I'm way too white, absolutely the fuck not, like I'm too American, too white, because I'll straight like, okay, I'll straight up blood of the fucking covenant, I don't fucking care, family is replaceable for me. And like right. I honestly, I think in my situation, being pagan makes it easier for me to be a little bit more open to a lot of the concepts, that you teach me from your culture, because I have a lot of those aspects from my spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it. I can see a lot of that, and I'm like, okay, like I can grasp it a lot easier. And part of it that I'm like, I don't know you shit. Like, no.
Yeah, you don't owe people shit. Yeah.
I didn't ask you to birth me. I didn't ask you to do these things. I didn't ask you to raise me the way that you did, or raise me where you did, so I don't owe you anything for that decision, because I wasn't a part of it. I'll say thanks if it makes you happy, but I don't owe you anything for that decision, because it wasn't mine to actually make, and I had no real input in it. And like, that's 100% like full blown fucking American ass shit. And I'm like, yep. Yes.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I was just saying my life is literally that Vine where they're like, your mother can't come in here and like disrespect you like that. Like, this is your area. This is like your and I'm like, yeah, man. Like,
yeah, that's you.
That's being a fucking white American. I'm like, yes. There is no obligation. There is no like
no one anything.
I owe no one anything. We share blood. You made a fucking choice. You got fucking I'm here and I didn't pick that. You chose this. You lived the way that you lived and raised me like by all of your choice. I wasn't fucking showing up being like, you know what you should do? Have me. Like, I don't care. I don't know anything. This was your choice. Being a parent was your decision. So like, that's great. But I do stand in line. My mother, I'm grown as fuck. My mother helped me getting my house. I did not have all of the money for the cash upfront down payment. So she fronted me money and has been going on about like, no, we don't want that back. And I'm like, absolutely not. I will not be in debt and I will not owe you, regardless of if you determine it as a gift. I feel it as a debt. So I just paid that back. I got a beautiful work bonus and I don't have $1 left from it because I immediately sent it all forward because like, that is I owe her that. I asked her for that. I had my choice and my input in it. And I asked for this. I owe her that in return. She does not deserve to not have access to things because she gave it to me as an adult. As a child, I don't owe her for shit that she put out.
Under 18, forget it. I wasn't yet.
Not even that. When I was 16, I bought my own trucks. All my pieces of shit that I drove pieces of shit because I had to buy them because my family is very much like, I have a way that I live because I was raised and she was like, I don't owe you a car. You want a car? Go get it. I don't owe you that opportunity. I owe you the opportunity of growth. So I will take you to get your driver's license and learn how to do that. But I don't owe you a vehicle and I don't owe you access to that freedom. So if you want it, go get it.
And can I just comment on that? Because I've had relatives come, obviously, to America, either immigrate over or just visit over, and they just don't understand the concept of white parents. Again, not just your parents.
Exclusively mine.
Not I'm just
exclusively my white parents.
just white, the generalization of white American parents not helping out their children when they're under their roofs still. When they're like 16 and over, or like 18, what have you. Let's say driving age and over.
Yeah.
They think it's like it's almost like they also have that utang to their kids.
Yeah.
Until they can stand on their own.
Yeah.
Because this concept is such like it goes both ways where it's like, I also owe my kid, same thing. I also owe my kid that growth and the whatever until they can stand on their own, until they leave our house. And even if I'm out of my mother's house and she's still like, do you need anything? Like, do you still like she just gave me money the other day. I was like, why are you giving me money? She's like, here, just take it. I was like,
just take it.
I mean, I will, but like, you really like, I'm grown now. But like, it's also the same thing where it's like, they're still whereas again, my relatives from the Philippines see it as like, why wouldn't they do the same thing? And I think it's because the American way is more like, go make yourself a person. Whereas in the Philippines, it's like, it's literally a whole village makes you. There's nothing. And that utang na loob is more like, I helped you out, so you have to help me out. Yeah. And there's no one that's self-made, and they go into the podcast like with this, like no one is self-made in the Philippines. There's no way. It's the work of a village. And that's when it becomes really convoluted when you do make it. That's when everyone starts asking. Yeah. And you've seen that. Yep. Oh yeah. And a lot of people that I know, my relatives, like I don't care. I truly, because like I get it, because it's taken me a while to understand, and I've just understood it, where I'm like, it's the way of being Filipino, and I get it, and like it's annoying because I am American, but I also do know that it is the help of a whole village getting me here.
Yeah.
So I don't feel any remorse of helping out when I can.
Yeah.
But it's also very jarring when you aren't raised Filipino and are strictly just American, and then
Yeah.
your whole family shuns you.
That's wild. Yeah. That's wild.
And I'm not saying that's like common, but I've heard instances of it, or just like, it's just like also the way that Filipino Americans are raised, depending on their family, because some Filipinos that immigrate over and have children refuse to even speak Filipino in front of their kids. Absolutely refuse to like make them grow up as Filipino. It's like you're American now, like assimilate. And I
That's
have a
crazy.
few people, and I have a few people that I know that are like that.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to reclaim like, oh, I want to know what it is to be Filipino, but it's also like you lost that so much time
Yeah.
that like it's hard to then.
It's so late in the game now to understand all of it when you've been that far removed from it. I
Right,
feel
because then it's like, yeah, and not even that. It's like if you're so far removed and you want to come back into the community, of course we'll get you back into the community, but it's like here's all the psychology and probably why you feel the way that
Yeah.
you feel. And it's like the amount of time to figure that out in itself can be a whole lifetime now that
Yeah.
you've been out of it. So it's like it's the whole collective versus individual thing in America versus not being in America, or which is Western culture in general. And it's just like it's really like every day I'm just like, oh my fucking God. I just butt heads with the two like individuals in me. I'm just like, oh my fucking God, I can't deal with this anymore. And which is why I'm back in therapy.
And this is why I'm back in therapy. Listen, kids, therapy works.
Yeah. Especially if you are a child of an immigrant, because it's super interesting to obviously figure that shit out, because I have had instances obviously with my family where my American side just comes out more than my
Yeah.
Filipino side, and that's when they're like you're spoiled brat or like you're XYZ, and I'm like, oh shit. Like what do
Oh,
you mean?
damn.
And then it's a whole like I don't even know, a figuring out of like what the fuck did I do wrong, when really it's nothing. It's just like the generational disconnect, I guess. So
That's wild.
there's that. There's also like a thing in the Philippines too where this is the same concept too. Like the utang is like parents unconsciously, I guess, make or not make use their children as retirement funds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
That shit.
and it's the youth in the Philippines, which I've seen just through social media. I don't obviously live there. I do talk to my cousins. Um, they are trying to dismantle that now because now they're figuring that out, which is good, I guess, through social media and just the internet in general and figuring
Yeah.
out psychology and stuff. But then that then becomes it contradicts the utang na loob situation
Yeah.
where it's like
Yeah.
even if you are in the Philippines and you are born and raised there and like stay there and don't immigrate over and you like get a college education, you get a job, blah blah. It's like your parents are still they're still hounding you over there. Like your relatives over there are still hounding you, like, oh, you finished college, like, oh, let's go do XYZ. Let's help me out here, all this stuff. And it's not, and any Filipino can probably relate, honestly.
I'm sure. Yeah. Any white American mostly can't.
Right. And like there are instances here where I'm just like, man, to maybe live that life, maybe
She's
would
lucky
be.
I'm going to put her in a nice home.
And I can't fathom that. Yeah, I can't fathom that. And even if my parents don't even, because I know they're retiring in the Philippines, I couldn't even fathom. I don't even think there are homes in the Philippines like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how like distinctly different it is.
What am I going to fucking do with her? I'm not listening.
Well, that's why like, my grandma's house is like just generations worth of people. And that's just so common.
Yeah.
Like people come in and out.
Yeah.
Because it's literally a whole village.
No.
Yeah. And if you don't want to do that, you feel it feels like you're being spoiled, like it feels like.
And like, so I can understand that because that's how I grew up, in a 1-bedroom apartment with 5 people, growing up and coming in and out, as some tried to get into relationships and leave, but ended up coming back, as another one had a kid and that joined in. Like I grew up with, an adult matriarch, a 20-year-old, fucking like 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. Like that's what I was born into. And so I grew up with people that were, still in school and going through school. And then one of them had their own kid and that joined in. And like, I had to take care of that kid. I was 10 with a baby to take care of. And as I grew up, I was like, I think the fuck not. Mommy got us out of that, as they continued to be there for a little bit. And it was just her and I. And like, I will never again. Like, no. Yeah. I watched my uncle live with my grandmother as she got sick and had to take care of her and all that. And I'm like, yeah, no, I shan't be dealing with that. So you'll go in a nice little home and I'll come visit you. Bye.
Right. And
won't do that shit again.
And again, like, that's also a concept that my Filipino relatives don't understand. Like, they've blatantly like said like nursing homes, like like, can you believe white people send their parents to nursing homes? Like, God forbid any of you guys do that. And I'm just like, and none of us will ever, because that's just how the way that we grew up. And like, 100%. If it can't be us, then like there's always some distant relative that'll help out in which way or whatever.
I think it's also contributing that like I don't have that, and like most like white people that I know don't have that. Some of them do. I JJ, he's got like literally so much family all over the place, and like they take each other in and take it, and like I'm like, that's wild. I don't know who they are or where they, like, I don't know them at all. If they felt ill, like I wouldn't even know that they existed for them to like need anything. And like same here, like they have no idea what goes on with my life.
Right.
And like if I needed, they wouldn't even know to like need to help me. Like I do not have a little bit of family that I do have and do know I don't really talk to. So
right. And I'm not saying every Filipino family is like this. It's just like a benefit that I have is that I know all my cousins for the most part. Not saying I'm civil with all of them, but I know my cousins and I know like my titos, whatever. But for me, it's different because I don't have any here physically.
Yeah.
And that's also like, that's a common thing in like being Filipino American. I feel like still, if you're first, second generation, like your family's still over there. So that's I have people. It's just like, what are they gonna do? They're half world away.
Yeah.
So when shit goes down here, it's like, well, I can just tell you on Facebook, but what are you gonna do? Like, I'm just gonna deal with it myself. So, but yeah, I think what struggle that I have is the whole collective versus individual situation that goes on with being American and not being American. And something like this, the debt that I have with my, not even just my parents, but even my grandparents and just like my ate and like, all of the cousins and older people that I have, is like, it accumulates. I'm just speaking from now, personal experience. It just accumulates where it's just like, do I then help out even though I don't need to? And like the answer is usually yes because of that concept. Like the amount of times that they've asked for help, I'm just like, if I have the means to do it, I will. Yeah. Even if that means I have to cut back on doing something here.
Yeah.
And that's just unfortunately or fortunately the way that being Filipino is.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And like I understand that, and like I love that as a concept, and like it's easy for me to view it as a concept because it's not something that like I've ever had to live or have any like firsthand experience with. I understand objectively the like theory of it, and I understand, and like I'm able to objectively look at it, but I obviously wouldn't be able to fully relate to it, having never had to like actually, you know, partake in it. I understand feeling like a debt of gratitude, I guess, would be the closest thing that like I can associate to it. But it absolutely does not have the chokehold on me that it does, you know, for it
just
in
psychologically
for you. Yeah, 100%.
Because it does get weaponized.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it subconsciously. Like it's just and like there's never a name to it, but you just know that like if you're younger and you're, you know, and obviously in Filipino there's terms ate and kuya, which are older. It's either older sister or brother, but it also is just older female figure, older male figure, and just being an ate to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I subconsciously, because I have that title above people, subconsciously have it. And not saying I weaponize it to the point where I'm not like this person on the fucking podcast where their dad is like, give me my portion of the money. Like,
yeah.
But because I am Filipino and I have that title above someone else, I just know you have to respect me just because. And that could be also like a
and like
utang
I've heard
have.
you say it. You're like, I'm older. Like obviously not to me because I'm older than you, but
Right.
like in like regaling to me a situation that you were like, like you were just like flabbergasted. You're like, I'm older, and I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and like it's funny because I'm so close to you that I have that same. You're older, so whatever you want to do, I'm just gonna follow because that's just subconsciously like you're making a decision. I'm just gonna follow.
Yeah,
which is not. It's not necessarily the utang, but like it's the same. It's a similar vein.
Yeah.
Or it's like the whole kapwa thing of like collectivity and just like if you're older and the elder, like
whatever you say. Yeah.
Whatever you say.
You're ready to just go with whatever I want, whatever I say. Lucky for you, I don't make decisions ever. So I'm like, no, that's okay.
which actually hinders me sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Because
then you weigh what you want to do versus what you think I want.
Yes, because that's the whole thing. That's the whole psychology is like I've been taught to respect my elders, even if they may not have the best intentions for me, but because they're older, they may know something I don't just because, you know, I'm just younger. So sometimes when you do get like that, I get very internally just like aggravated. Not because of your indecision, but because you're older. I'm like, but she's older. Like she shouldn't.
But she's older.
Like I don't want to overstep my whole
Which is your first mistake because I may be physically older, but we both know emotionally, mentally, I am absolutely. We both know emotionally and mentally, I'm like more closely related to your youngest sibling.
Which is always conundrum. Obviously, as a Filipino American, forget it. Like if I want to like pull at my American card, then like I just have to. It's like a fucking reset or like a switch. I have to like physically just do. Be like, no, fuck it. Like, you know,
we're too close. So you look at me in like family aspects, and you're like, well, like she's older, but then you're like, no, hold on, wrong book. You're gonna pull out the American version. You're like, okay,
yeah,
she's a dumb bitch. Do this.
I didn't say that. I never said you were dumb.
I say it for you. No worries.
I never said you were dumb. So yeah, so it's like it's harder with obviously it's harder with you because you're white. For me, it's like if I'm talking to another Filipino or Filipino American, like I can go through every fucking maze and like, you know, puzzle in my brain to be like, oh, I get it. Yeah, whatever. But then when it comes to like my white counterparts, I'm like, all right, here's every layer. Both conflicting. It's like not a pros and cons, but like I don't know what like you know in school where it's like you match things. Like it's like one side is like the definition, one is like the actual word. It's like I'm matching like this is what it means in the Filipino like way versus the American way, and it's just me trying to like fucking form a thought or like a line between the two.
If white, if
then
not.
Yeah, it's like an if then statement on a fucking Excel file. Like it's like so like, it takes some processing for me. Unfortunately. But I'm hoping this, if you ever get to the podcast, will alleviate some of your I don't know, or bridge the gap.
It definitely makes it easier for me to understand, put myself in, your thought process to understand, better how I can, make things easier, for you, with you, whatever.
Because it's fucking difficult. I thought I could, I don't know, go through life and freaking like just kind of not detaching, but just like being one or two people, depending on who I'm in. But it's just like, it's not happening.
It's not that easy to separate out and filter through.
No, and I'm a Gemini, so I can't even fucking imagine what everyone else can.
At least you have two personalities at your disposal. Imagine the people that don't.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I know.
Must be
God.
Tough. Can't
I
relate.
know. Okay, well, I mean that's all I had. So this isn't gonna be like, again, my other podcast is on a hiatus. So I don't have
So we might have more meaningful conversations now.
Yeah, because all the
You're
podcasts.
welcome, Unhinged.
I know, because all the podcasts.
A minor respite.
Because all the podcasts that I listen to, or well, besides my true crime ones, are like people just recommend me like good like one-offs, or like, or I read stuff online, which is mainly just Twitter and TikTok. I'm not gonna lie, it's not like I'm not going through Google Scholar and looking up like whatever, but
I would hope not.
No, I don't. I'm not at that level yet. So, but in any case, I'm gonna put the NPR podcast thing in the description if anyone wants to listen to it, I guess.
I love that. Full support.
Okay. Well, we're done.
We're done.
Y'all can like, comment, subscribe. If you're Filipino American, hit me up. I don't know.
Hit me up. Send an email.
We haven't been getting emails yet. Not that I've been checking, but we probably don't have an email yet. You checked?
I haven't checked.
Oh, you haven't
right
checked.
now, just to see.
Yeah, send us an email. It's the right amount of unhinged@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram. Our handles are at the end screen or in the description. No emails. Yeah, change that. Someone email us. Okay, bye.
Okay, that's the end.